Ethan Cole sat alone in his small room on the lower deck of a worn-out space station. The light flickered as the power cells tried to hold. He had been working 12-hour shifts fixing air filters and repairing rusted machines just to afford a single meal. Life was hard and lonely. No one cared about a poor human mechanic living at the edge of the galaxy. One morning his console beeped. The screen flashed a golden seal of the Galactic Court of Valora. Ethan frowned, thinking it was a mistake. The message read, "You have been chosen as the legal heir to the estate of Lord Valen of Valora 9. Please report immediately for inheritance transfer." He laughed at first. He had no family in space. He was born on Earth, raised in orphanage domes after the climate wars. Yet the message carried his full name, birth record, and genetic code. It even displayed his thumbprint already verified. His heart raced. If it was real, he could finally escape this miserable life. 2 days later, he stood inside a shuttle heading toward Valora 9. Through the window, he saw the planet covered in bright blue oceans and glowing silver clouds. It looked rich and pure compared to the dirty mining colonies he knew. The moment he stepped out, a group of tall alien officers bowed before him. Their skin shimmered like liquid glass. One said in a deep, calm voice, "Welcome, Heir Ethan Cole. Lord Valen's property awaits you." Ethan followed them through shining streets where every building floated slightly above the ground. People looked at him with curiosity, whispering about the human who had inherited one of Valora's grandest mansions. When he entered the vehicle, he asked softly, "Are you sure this isn't a mistake?" The officer replied, "The system never lies, sir. The estate is bound by genetic law." The mansion stood on a hill surrounded by blue flame trees. Its walls gleamed like silver crystal. A giant gate opened silently as they approached. Inside was a long corridor filled with glowing portraits. Ethan stopped when he saw one that looked almost like him but older, eyes sharper, presence heavier. His chest tightened. The officer noticed and said, "That was Lord Valen himself." They led him to the main hall where a woman stood waiting. She was tall and graceful with pale blue skin that seemed to glow under the light. Her long silver hair moved like water. Her eyes met his, calm yet sad. She stepped forward, placed her hand on her chest, and said gently, "Now I am all yours." Ethan froze. He looked at the officers, but they simply bowed and turned away. The huge doors shut behind them, leaving him alone with the strange woman. He stammered, "Who are you?" She bowed again. "I am Lyra of Valora, wife of the late Lord Valen. The estate, the fortune, and my service now belong to you, my new master." Ethan took a step back, confused and nervous. "Wait, wife? I didn't come here for that." "There must be a mistake." Lyra lowered her gaze. "There is no mistake. It is the ancient vow of this house. The heir inherits all, including the bond of union." Her voice was calm but carried sorrow. Ethan tried to protest, but his words faded. The mansion lights dimmed and a deep tone echoed through the walls. A hidden system announced, "New master registered. Welcome, Ethan Cole." Every device in the hall lit up. Symbols appeared on the walls. The air around him pulsed like it was alive. Lyra watched him quietly. "The mansion has accepted you. It will obey you now." Ethan felt uneasy. He looked around and saw servants, metallic drones floating near the ceiling, begin to move again after years of silence. They started cleaning, polishing, serving as if they had been waiting for him. He turned to Lyra. "Why would someone I don't know leave all this to me? What connection could I have with your husband?" She gave a faint smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Perhaps you should rest. The answers will come when the house decides you are ready." She guided him to a dining chamber filled with soft blue light. The food shimmered in crystal bowls, giving off a warm aroma he had never smelled before. He sat but couldn't eat. The entire situation felt unreal. Lyra stood behind him in silence, hands folded. He glanced at her reflection in the glass and asked, "Did you love him?" Her answer came after a long pause. "I was created to, but love changes with time and choice." Her words struck something deep inside him. Created to love. What did that mean? Was she human or something else entirely? When night fell, Lyra showed him to a grand room. The walls were filled with stars like an open sky. As he lay down, the bed adjusted to his heartbeat. The ceiling whispered his name softly, as if the house itself knew him. He couldn't sleep. Every sound made him alert. Somewhere deep in the mansion, he heard a faint echo, a male voice whispering through the halls. "He didn't die. He became you." Ethan sat up, his pulse racing. The air turned colder. Lyra appeared at his door, her face pale under the silver light. She said nothing, only looked at him with fear and sadness before closing the door again. Ethan lay awake until dawn, staring at the glowing ceiling, his mind filled with one question. What kind of inheritance had he just walked into? The morning light of Valora 9 poured through crystal windows, turning the mansion's halls into rivers of gold and blue. Ethan woke to the faint hum of machines working somewhere deep below. For a moment he wondered if everything that happened last night was a dream. But the voice of Lyra calling his name proved it was all real. She entered quietly, holding a tray of steaming cups filled with a glowing drink. Her movements were calm and graceful, every step balanced and perfect. Ethan sat up, still uneasy from the strange whisper he had heard in the night. Lyra placed the tray before him and said softly, "Nutrient tea, Master Ethan. It restores energy and clears the mind." He accepted the cup but did not drink right away. "Lyra, I need answers. Why did your husband leave all this to me? Who am I to you?" Her eyes lowered for a moment as if she was afraid to speak. "My husband, Lord Valen, followed ancient tradition. When a Valoran noble dies without blood heir, his estate is given to the one whose soul frequency matches his. The system found that match in you." Ethan frowned. "Soul frequency? I'm just an engineer, not some noble clone." Lyra smiled gently, but her smile hid pain. "Valoran law believes the soul can pass through patterns of energy. Your DNA, your memories, even your voice carry pieces of him. The mansion recognized that." Ethan looked around at the shining walls and the moving drones. "Then this house thinks I'm him?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, Master. But I know you are not him. Your eyes are kinder. Your voice carries doubt, not command." Her words left a strange warmth in his chest. Yet there was fear too, because deep down he couldn't deny how the mansion seemed alive, how it responded to him like he had lived there all his life. He followed her to the main dining hall. The table stretched endlessly with alien dishes glowing in soft colors. Lyra stood near him, explaining each dish like it was a ritual. He noticed her hands tremble slightly when she poured his drink. She tried to hide it, but he caught the movement. "You're afraid of something," he said. Lyra froze for a moment before answering. "I am afraid of repeating the past." Ethan leaned closer. "What past?" Her silver eyes met his, and for a brief second he saw sorrow so deep it almost felt human. "My husband wanted to cross the boundary between life and death. He built machines that could capture thought and transfer it into new vessels. He said it was a way to live forever, but it was forbidden by our council. He called it love beyond death. I called it madness." Ethan's hands clenched. "And you think I'm part of that experiment?" She turned away. "I think you are the result of it." The words hit him hard. He stood up, his chair sliding back. The walls seemed to breathe around him. "That's impossible. I grew up on Earth. I remember my childhood." Lyra's voice stayed calm. "Memories can be written, Master Ethan. Dreams can be planted. The real question is, whose dream are you living?" The silence that followed felt heavy. Outside, the alien sun burned brighter, sending waves of light through the window. Ethan could hear his own heart beat fast and loud. Lyra reached out and gently touched his arm. "I do not wish to hurt you. I only want you to understand what danger this house brings. Many would kill to possess the secrets your body may hold." He stepped back from her touch, still lost in disbelief. "If all this is true, then why help me? Why not turn me in?" Lyra's voice softened even more. "Because when I look at you, I see the man I loved, but also the man he could never be. I cannot betray that hope." Before Ethan could answer, the floor beneath them vibrated. A hidden mechanism opened near the far wall, revealing a narrow staircase leading down. A cold wind came from below, carrying a mechanical hum. Lyra's expression changed from calm to fear. "The house is opening its memory vaults. It only does that for the true master." Ethan looked toward the stairs, drawn by a strange force he couldn't explain. Part of him wanted to run, but another part needed to know the truth. Lyra stepped in front of him. "If you go down there, you may never be the same again." He stared past her into the dark passage glowing faintly with blue light. His voice was steady. "Then it's time I find out who I really am." Without waiting for her reply, Ethan began to descend into the unknown depths of the mansion, unaware that the next secret waiting below would change everything he thought he knew about being human. Ethan stepped carefully down the spiral staircase, his hand brushing the cold metal rail. The deeper he went, the colder the air became. The light above faded until only the faint blue glow from the walls guided him. Every step echoed like a heartbeat through the mansion's bones. He could hear the hum of machinery behind the walls, old but still alive. When he reached the bottom, he found himself standing in a long underground chamber. The walls shimmered with alien runes that pulsed like veins. Rows of glass tubes lined the sides, each filled with faint mist and shadowy shapes. The air smelled like metal and dust. In the center stood a large crystal console, glowing softly, waiting for touch. Ethan walked closer and brushed his hand across the surface. Instantly, the room came alive. Light burst through the tubes as holographic figures appeared, some human, some alien, all speaking in voices he didn't understand. One by one, the figures vanished until only one remained. It looked exactly like him. Older, dressed in dark ceremonial robes, the projection stared at him with cold eyes and spoke in perfect English. "If you are seeing this, then the transfer succeeded." Ethan froze. The voice was deep and calm, almost like his own, but filled with arrogance. The figure continued. "I am Lord Valen of Valora. Death was not an end for me. My consciousness was preserved through the human genome, through you. You are the continuation of my work, my vessel, my legacy." Ethan stepped back, shaking his head. "No, that's not true." The figure's eyes flickered. "You will deny me, but you cannot deny the truth written in your blood." The image faded, leaving the room silent again. Ethan's pulse pounded in his ears. His hands trembled as he stared at the console. He wanted to run back upstairs, but something inside him whispered to stay. Something deep within him wanted to know more. He turned toward another door at the far end of the chamber. It slid open automatically as he approached. Inside was a small lab filled with machines, strange tools, and glowing vials. In the middle stood a large glass pod covered in frost. Across the front, alien letters formed a name he could somehow read. Human Subject 47. Integration complete. Ethan stared at it, heart racing. The figure inside the pod was human. The body looked peaceful, almost asleep. The face was his. He stumbled backward, breathing fast. No, this can't be real. Behind him, the door opened quietly. Lyra stood there, her face pale, her eyes filled with sadness. "You were not meant to see this yet," she said softly. Ethan turned toward her. You knew what this place is. You knew what I am." She stepped closer, her voice calm but trembling. I begged him to stop, but he refused. He wanted to break the barrier between species, between life and death. He found your body among the humans sold to Valora's laboratories. You were dying. He used you as a vessel to preserve his mind. Ethan's knees weakened. "So I'm not even me." "I'm just his experiment," Lyra shook her head quickly. "No, Ethan, you are more than that. When the transfer failed, Valen's memories were lost. His power ended there. But something else woke inside you. Something new. You became your own person." Her words felt like a rope pulling him back from the edge. Still, he couldn't breathe right. He touched his chest as if trying to feel whether his heart truly belonged to him. He looked again at the frozen body. "Why keep this here? Why not destroy it?" Lyra's voice dropped to a whisper. "Because the system will never accept that Valen is gone. The mansion still believes he will return. That is why it accepted you. It feels his echo through you. A soft vibration filled the air. The console behind them flickered back to life, the same deep voice repeating one phrase over and over. Return to the surface. Claim what is yours. The heir must become the master." Lyra grabbed Ethan's hand. "We have to go. The house is waking." The tubes along the walls began to glow brighter. Steam hissed from the sides. The pod with his frozen double cracked slightly. A thin line of light ran across the glass. Ethan pulled Lyra toward the stairs as the sound grew louder, like a heartbeat pounding through the entire mansion. When they reached the main hall, the lights above flickered wildly. The portraits on the walls shimmered, faces changing, watching him. Lyra's voice shook. "It knows you've seen the truth. It won't let you leave easily now." Ethan stood there breathing hard, staring up at the ceiling where light and shadow twisted like a living storm. For the first time since he arrived, he realized the house was not just reacting to him. It was judging him. And somewhere deep inside, he felt it whisper again, not in his ears, but inside his mind. "Welcome home, Valen." The mansion had grown restless. The walls glowed with shifting lights, whispering strange words as Ethan and Lyra stood in the main hall. The portraits stared down at them like silent witnesses. The air felt heavy, almost alive. Ethan's heartbeat echoed in his ears while Lyra watched him carefully, afraid of what might happen next. He turned toward her, voice low but steady. "Tell me everything. No more secrets." Lyra hesitated, her hands tightening around the folds of her silver gown. "If I speak, you may hate me forever," she said softly. "I already hate the lies," he answered. She took a deep breath and led him toward the garden balcony. The night sky above Valora 9 was filled with twin moons and swirling auroras. The soft light made her skin shimmer like glass. She looked fragile and strong at the same time. "Lord Valen was obsessed with power," she began. "He wanted to merge human adaptability with Velaran intellect. He believed humans carried emotional strength that our kind lost long ago. He thought by merging both he would become perfect." Ethan listened in silence, his eyes never leaving hers. "He used forbidden science," Lyra continued. "He captured the energy of dying minds and stored them in crystals. He planned to transfer his soul into a human vessel that could carry both essence and thought. You were that vessel." Ethan's hands shook slightly. "You mean he stole my life?" Lyra nodded slowly. "But the process failed. He did not return. The human body survived, but Valen's consciousness scattered. What woke instead was you. Not his copy, not his shadow, but someone new." Ethan walked to the edge of the balcony, staring at the glowing city below. The wind brushed against his face. He tried to remember his life before coming here, but his memories felt soft and distant, like dreams. He could recall places, faces, and laughter, but not the emotions behind them. They felt borrowed. "If I was created by his experiment," he said quietly, "then what makes me real?" Lyra came closer. "The choices you make, that is what makes you real." He looked at her. "And you? You said you were created to love him. What does that mean?" Her eyes turned sad. "Velaran brides of high rank are not born. They are shaped. My mind was designed to match his temperament, to serve his will, to complete his legacy. I was a living symbol of his status. I never chose him. But when I saw you, I felt something I was never meant to feel. Freedom." Her words hit him deeply. He realized she was trapped just like him, bound by someone else's creation. They were both victims of Valen's ambition. Before he could speak, the air around them rippled. A voice came from the mansion system, cold and commanding. "Identity conflict detected. Reinitialization required." The lights brightened. Energy waves spread through the floor, forcing them back inside. The portraits of Valen began to distort, showing flashes of Ethan's own face merging with the alien lord's. The mansion trembled. Ethan shouted, "What is it doing?" Lyra grabbed his arm. "It's trying to restore Valen's consciousness using your mind. The system believes it can bring him back now that it has enough data." Ethan stumbled, his vision blurring. He could hear whispers inside his head, strange phrases in alien language mixing with his own thoughts. He dropped to one knee, pressing his hands against his temples. "Get it out of my head." Lyra knelt beside him, her voice firm. "Fight it. The mansion only has power if you accept its command. You must reject the link." He looked up at her, his eyes glowing faintly blue like the walls. "What if I can't?" She held his face gently. "Then I will remind you who you are." Her touch grounded him. The lights dimmed slightly. The whispers faded into soft echoes. Ethan gasped for air, shaking but still himself. The mansion went silent again, as if waiting for the next command. He stood slowly and faced the main console in the hall. "If this house wants its master, it will have to face me." Lyra watched him with a mix of fear and admiration. "You're not Valen," she whispered. "You're stronger." Ethan glanced at her and nodded. "Then we find a way to end this for good. No more ghosts, no more masters." Outside, thunder rolled across the alien sky, though there were no clouds. The mansion's power core glowed faintly beneath the floors like a sleeping heart. Ethan knew the truth about his past now, but the battle for his soul had only just begun. Days passed since Ethan learned the truth about his existence, yet sleep never came easily. The mansion had grown quiet again, but it was the kind of silence that felt alive. Lights flickered at random, mechanical whispers echoed through empty halls, and every door seemed to watch him. Lyra stayed close, moving like a shadow, guiding him through secret corridors only she knew. One evening as they stood in the great library, the communication crystal near the desk began to glow red. Lyra frowned. "That signal belongs to the Galactic Court," she said. "They must have traced your inheritance." Ethan touched the crystal, and a holographic image of 3 alien officials appeared above it. Their robes were gold and black, their faces sharp and emotionless. The one in the center spoke first. "Ethan Cole, citizen of Earth. You stand accused of identity theft, possession of forbidden Valoran property, and unlawful claim of a noble estate." Ethan stared, his hands tightening into fists. "I didn't steal anything. The system chose me." The alien ignored his words. "You are to surrender the estate immediately. A hearing will be held within 1 rotation. If you fail to comply, military enforcement will be authorized." The image vanished, leaving the air cold and heavy. Ethan looked at Lyra. "They think I'm pretending to be Valen." Lyra nodded slowly. "To them there is no difference. The law forbids anyone from inheriting without clear bloodline. If they discover what you truly are, they won't arrest you, they will erase you." Ethan paced across the room, his mind racing. The Galactic Court wanted him gone, and the mansion itself wanted to control him. There was no one left he could trust except Lyra. "Then we have to prove I'm not Valen," he said finally. "We have to show them the truth." Lyra's voice trembled. "The truth could destroy you, Ethan. The moment they learn what you are, they will not see a man, they will see a weapon." Before he could reply, the floor shook. The mansion's defense systems activated on their own. Drones descended from hidden vents, scanning the rooms with red lights. A robotic voice spoke from the walls. "Security breach detected. External forces approaching." Ethan ran to the window. In the distance, a fleet of sleek silver ships was descending from the clouds. The Galactic Court had already arrived. Lyra turned toward him, her silver eyes glowing faintly. "They will land soon. We must make a choice, fight or flee." Ethan's voice was steady now. "If I run, they will keep hunting. If I fight, maybe they'll finally listen." He activated the main console. The entire mansion responded to his touch. Energy flowed through the walls like veins of light. The voice of the mansion spoke again, calm and deep. "Command recognized. Defense protocol unlocked." Lyra stepped closer. "Ethan, be careful. The system will follow your orders, but it was built for Valen's mind. Too much power could break your own." He looked at her and smiled faintly. "Then I'll use just enough to protect us." The first blast hit the outer shields, shaking the ground. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Ethan directed the drones to defend the perimeter. Streams of blue energy shot into the sky. The alien ships returned fire, their beams slicing through the night. The once quiet mansion became a fortress of light and thunder. Inside, Lyra worked beside him, controlling the power grids and rerouting systems. Her calm voice guided him through the chaos. "You're doing it, Ethan. You're controlling what Valen never could." He could feel the mansion's power surging through his body, syncing with his heartbeat. Every command he gave, the systems obeyed instantly. He was no longer just a human. He was part of the house now, part of its living core. Through the chaos, a communication line opened. The same alien officer's face appeared, now distorted by static. "Ethan Cole, stand down or you will be destroyed." Ethan glared at the image. "I'm not your enemy, but I won't surrender what was forced upon me." He cut the link and focused all energy on a single pulse wave. The blast spread across the land, knocking the attacking ships out of formation. Silence followed except for the hum of cooling circuits. When the smoke cleared, Lyra looked at him with awe. "You fought them and survived. No human has ever done that." Ethan's breathing was heavy, his hands trembling from exhaustion. "I didn't fight for the mansion," he said softly. "I fought for the right to exist." Lyra stepped closer, placing a hand on his arm. "You proved it today. You are not Valen. You are Ethan Cole, and this house knows it now." The lights of the mansion dimmed gently as if bowing to its true master. Outside, the wreckage of the fleet burned in the alien sky. But Ethan knew this was only the beginning. The Galactic Court would not stop. The next battle would not just test his power. It would test who he truly was inside. The night after the battle was too quiet. The mansion still stood, but the air carried the scent of burning metal and dust. The glow from the damaged ships painted the sky red. Ethan stood on the balcony, watching smoke drift across the horizon. His reflection in the glass looked strange, part human, part something else. The light in his eyes flickered with the same hue as the mansion's core. Lyra walked up beside him, her voice soft but firm. "The Galactic Court will return. They never forgive rebellion." Ethan didn't look at her. "Then let them come." "I'm done running." She stepped closer. "You can't fight all of them. Even the house won't survive another full attack." He turned to her, his voice low but steady. I'm not fighting for the mansion anymore. I'm fighting for who I am. Lyra studied him carefully. There was something new in his face, a confidence that wasn't there before. But she also saw exhaustion, the kind that came from carrying too many identities at once. Inside, the mansion hummed softly. The AI system spoke through the walls, its tone colder than before. Master command detected. Genetic identity unstable. Recalibration recommended, Ethan frowned. What does that mean? Lyra looked alarmed. The system is trying to fix your DNA pattern. It wants to remove anything it sees as foreign. He clenched his fists. You mean it's trying to erase the human part? She nodded. It believes that only by becoming Valen again can the estate survive. Ethan felt heat rising inside him. The mansion's energy moved through his veins, calling him to submit, to let go, to accept the old identity it wanted to restore. For a moment, he almost did. A deep voice whispered in his head, Valen's voice smooth and confident. Let me guide you, Ethan. Together we can control everything. Ethan staggered, gripping the railing. Get out of my head, he shouted. Lyra rushed to him, placing her hands on his shoulders. Listen to me. You are not Valen. You have his memories, but not his soul. You can still choose. Her voice broke through the storm inside him. He looked at her, eyes glowing faintly blue, and said quietly, Then help me fight it. Together they ran to the central chamber where the mansion's core was located. The huge crystalline structure pulsed like a living heart, lighting the entire hall in waves of blue and silver. The system's voice filled the air again. Reconstruction sequence initiated. Identity merge in progress. Lyra pressed her hand against the console, trying to override the process. Sparks flew from the panel. It's not listening to me anymore, she said. It only obeys you now. Ethan stepped forward. Then I'll make it listen. He placed his hands on the core. Instantly, his body shook as streams of light surged through him. Memories poured into his mind. Valen's childhood, his triumphs, his greed, his love for Lyra, his hunger for immortality. The weight of 2 lives pressed against his thoughts, fighting for control. The voice spoke again. You cannot destroy me. I am what you were made to be. Ethan shouted over the roar of the energy. I wasn't made to repeat your mistakes. He focused his thoughts, channeling his will into the system. The light changed color from cold blue to bright white. The walls cracked as circuits overloaded. The mansion's AI screamed in static. Lyra shielded her face from the blinding light. Then silence fell. The glow dimmed, leaving only soft light around the core. Ethan stood still, breathing hard. The air around him shimmered with faint energy. Lyra looked up, unsure if he was still himself. He turned toward her, eyes calm again, the strange blue glow gone. It's over. The system is free. Lyra stepped closer. Free? Ethan nodded. I shut down Valen's consciousness from the source. The mansion no longer answers to him. It's just a home now. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she smiled, relief softening her face. You did what no one else could. You won the battle he started. Ethan looked around at the quiet hall, the faint hum fading like a heartbeat slowing to rest. Maybe. But if the court comes again, they'll see what I've done and call it another crime. Lyra placed her hand on his chest. Then let them see. Let them see the man who chose to be human even when the universe told him not to. He smiled faintly. Human, alien, or something in between, I'll live as myself. Outside, the twin moons crossed paths in the sky, their light blending into one bright halo over the mansion. The battle was over, but the war for identity was only beginning. And in that silent moment, Ethan realized that the greatest victory wasn't survival, it was becoming real. The night after the mansion fell silent, the world outside seemed almost peaceful. The flames from the battle had died down, and the twin moons shone above the quiet hills of Valora 9. But inside Ethan, there was still a storm. He sat in the main hall among broken glass and fallen lights, his thoughts heavy. The mansion no longer spoke, the walls no longer glowed, yet he felt its quiet presence watching him like a fading memory. Lyra entered softly, carrying a small lamp. Her silver hair shimmered in the dim light as she looked at the damage around them. It's over, she said gently. You've freed us from him. Ethan looked up, his voice calm but uncertain. I ended Valen, but the Galactic Court won't believe it. They'll come again. And when they do, they'll destroy everything that was ever part of him, including me. Lyra placed the lamp on a cracked table. Then we will leave before they arrive. The universe is wide and your story doesn't have to end here. He stood slowly and looked around the grand hall. Every piece of it was built by a man who refused to die. Every corner whispered of greed, pride, and power. If we leave, he said softly, this place will fall into their hands. They'll use it to build more like him. Lyra's voice turned quiet. Then what will you do? Ethan walked toward the center of the room where the mansion's heart once pulsed. The core was dim now, its light weak like the last breath of an old god. He knelt and placed his hand on the smooth surface. There's only one way to end this for good, he said. I'll destroy it completely. Lyra's eyes widened. If you do that, the house will collapse. You could die. He looked at her, his face calm but resolute. Maybe that's what has to happen. If this place remains, his shadow will never die. She stepped closer, voice trembling. You're not him. You don't have to pay for his sins, he smiled faintly. Maybe not, but I carry his creation. If I don't end it, someone else will use it. I can't let that happen. Lyra reached out and touched his hand. Her eyes were wet with light, her voice soft. Then I stay with you. Ethan shook his head gently. No. You've spent your life following someone else's will. Don't let mine be another chain. Go, Lyra, live free. She didn't move. You gave me freedom when you chose to be yourself. I won't run from that now. For a moment, silence filled the room. Only the distant hum of the dying systems broke the stillness. Ethan looked at her, his heart torn between duty and the strange new bond they had built from pain and truth. Finally, he said softly, if we live through this, promise me one thing. Lyra nodded. Anything. Promise me you'll remember me as I am, not as the ghost I was made from. She smiled through her tears. I already do. Ethan placed both hands on the core. The lights around the hall began to flicker as energy gathered. The mansion's walls trembled. The ground beneath them vibrated as ancient power awakened one last time. The voice of Valen's system whispered faintly, a dying echo. You cannot erase what is eternal. Ethan's voice rose strong and clear. Nothing is eternal when it forgets how to change. He pressed his hand harder against the core. A wave of light burst outward, sweeping through every corridor, shattering machines, burning through circuits. The floor cracked beneath their feet. Lyra grabbed his arm as the ceiling began to fall. The two of them ran through collapsing halls filled with sparks and falling debris. They reached the outer gate just as the explosion ripped through the mansion. The shockwave threw them across the ground. When Ethan opened his eyes, the estate was gone. Only a crater of glowing dust remained where once stood the greatest symbol of Velaran pride. Lyra knelt beside him, her breathing heavy. The wind carried ash and silver light across the valley. Ethan looked at the ruins, his heart strangely calm. It's done, he said quietly. He's gone forever. Lyra turned toward him, her face illuminated by the twin moons. Then who are you now? Ethan looked up at the sky where the stars stretched endlessly. I'm no lord. I'm no machine. I'm just a man who finally chose his own path. She smiled softly. Then you are free. He took her hand as they watched the dust settle over the silent valley. Behind them, the wind whispered through the glowing trees, carrying away the last traces of the mansion's power. Ahead of them lay the unknown, a new beginning under the alien sky. Together they walked into the darkness, leaving behind a world built on lies and walking toward one built on choice. For the first time, Ethan Cole truly belonged to no one. And that was his greatest inheritance of all.